Welcome back to Totally Pointless. I'm JT.
And I'm TJ.
And today we're going to be diving into some choppy waters, I guess you could say.
Yeah, sounds about right.
We're talking Canadian politics and specifically
Oh, boy.
the Liberals' chances of survival
Yes.
as we head towards an election.
Right.
And we've got a ton of polls and expert analyses and...
Buckle up.
Yeah, buckle up, for sure. Even some, let's call them creative suggestions for how the Liberals might turn things around.
I love creative suggestions.
So let's get right into it. I'm looking at this poll right here, and the numbers are pretty stark.
Lay it on me.
Conservatives have a commanding lead. Nationally, it looks like 47% to the Liberals' 21%.
Wow. That's
a big gap.
It's a big gap. And you know what? It's not just one poll. We're seeing this consistent trend across the board.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. And when you break it down by region...
It gets even worse.
It gets even worse.
Outside of Quebec, the Conservatives are polling above 50% everywhere.
Everywhere.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's giving 2011 vibes, you know what I mean?
Total, like a sea of blue washing over the country.
And you got to wonder what's driving this shift. Is it just...
Well, you know, it's a few things, I think. But one of the big things is this narrative of instability that started after Chrystia Freeland left as finance minister.
Oh, you mean the Freeland effect?
Yeah, exactly. Some analysts are calling it that.
I've heard that term thrown around a lot lately, and it does feel like there was like a before Freeland and after Freeland.
Absolutely. It's like a line in the sand, you know?
Yeah.
Before she left, things were maybe not great, but they were manageable.
Right.
And then
they were holding it together.
And
Yeah.
then after she left, it's just been downhill.
It's been a bit of a free fall.
And it's not just Freeland either. We're seeing this whole trend of senior Liberal cabinet members choosing not to run for re-election.
Yeah, like Ben Menino, for example. He was a big name. Tons of experience. When someone like that bows out, you really do start to wonder what's going on behind the scenes.
For sure. Like, are they jumping ship before it sinks? You know,
Are they getting out while they still can?
Yeah, exactly.
So if the Liberals are, kind of floundering here, who's benefiting? Are we seeing a surge in support for the NDP?
You'd think so, right?
You'd think so.
But that's the thing. They're kind of stuck. I mean, they're hovering around 17% in the polls.
Not great.
Which is, respectable, but...
Not terrible, but not enough to form government.
Definitely not enough to form government. They're not capitalizing on the Liberals' weakness like you might expect.
So I guess that means the main beneficiary here is Pierre Poilievre.
It seems that way.
And the Conservatives.
He's cleaning up right now, big time.
Yeah, he is. I'm looking at the preferred prime minister polls, and he's way out in front, 40% compared to Trudeau's 17%, and Singh's trailing behind at 14%.
Yeah, and his lead is growing. I think it's up 5 points in just the last few weeks.
So what's fueling this surge in popularity for Poilievre? Is it just that the Liberals are weak, or is there something more to it?
It's a bit of both, I think. But you know what? 3 out of 10 Canadians, they say the economy is their top concern.
The economy always comes up.
Yeah, inflation, cost of living. These are the issues that people are really worried about. And it plays right into Poilievre's strengths,
He's been hammering away at those themes for months.
Exactly. He's tapped into this anxiety that people are feeling, and he's offering them a simple message. Change.
Yeah, I can see how that would resonate with people, especially when they're feeling like things aren't going so well.
Totally.
This whole situation is starting to feel a bit like 1984.
Oh, you mean when the Liberals got absolutely destroyed?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Are we heading for a repeat of that?
Some analysts are saying that if the Liberals don't make some major changes, we could be looking at a progressive conservative blue wave.
Wow, that's a pretty dramatic prediction.
It is, but you look at the numbers and it's hard to argue with.
So is there anything the Liberals can do to avoid this potential disaster?
Honestly, a leadership change might be their only option.
A leadership change?
I know it sounds drastic, but they've tried everything else. They've tweaked their policies, their messaging. They've even gone negative with attack ads, and nothing seems to be working.
It's like they're throwing everything at the wall and hoping something sticks.
Exactly. They're desperate.
Well, they're running out of time.
They are. This caucus meeting coming up could be make or break for Trudeau.
Yeah, he's going to be facing a lot of heat there.
Oh, for sure. There are already calls for him to resign.
So who are the potential successors if Trudeau does step down?
Well, the name that keeps coming up is Mark Carney.
Mark Carney. He's got the experience for sure, but can he connect with voters?
That's the million-dollar question.
It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Oh, absolutely. Canadian politics is never boring.
That's for sure.
And this is shaping up to be one for the history books.
I think you're right about that. It's going to be a wild ride.
Buckle up, JT.
I'm already buckled up.
Good, because things are about to get bumpy. You know, it's funny, with all this talk about the liberals and the conservatives, you'd almost forget about the NDP.
Yeah, they're kind of the forgotten party in all of this.
They are. It's like they're stuck in this no man's land, you know? Not strong enough to be a real threat, but not weak enough to be irrelevant.
So what's holding them back? Is it Jagmeet Singh? Is it their policies?
It's tough to say. I mean, some people argue that they're just not exciting enough. You know, they don't have that kind of bold vision that really captures the imagination of voters.
I guess they're seen as a bit safe, a bit predictable.
Yeah, exactly. And in times like these, when people are feeling anxious, they want something different, something that offers them hope.
And that's what Poilievre seems to be providing.
Yeah, he's really good at tapping into that anger and frustration that people are feeling.
I want to talk a bit more about this idea of a leadership change for the Liberals. We've heard Mark Carney's name thrown around as a possible successor to Trudeau.
Yeah, Carney's an interesting one. He's definitely got the experience and the name recognition, but can he connect with voters?
That's the big question.
And would he even want the job? It's a tough gig.
Especially now.
Especially now the party's in shambles.
It would take a very specific type of person to step into that role.
Someone who's not afraid of a challenge.
So this upcoming caucus meeting is going to be crucial.
Oh yeah, this is where it all goes down.
I mean, Trudeau's going to be under a lot of pressure.
He's going to have to answer some tough questions.
If he doesn't handle this well,
Yeah.
it could be the beginning of the end for him.
And for the party.
It's a high-stakes game.
Speaking of high stakes, let's talk about Chrystia Freeland's departure again.
Yeah, that was a real turning point.
It was, I mean, she was such a key figure in the party.
She was seen as competent and experienced.
Exactly. And when she left, it really shook things up.
It created this perception that things were falling apart.
And the Liberals haven't really recovered since.
It's like all of a sudden they were scrambling.
And the Conservatives were right there to take advantage.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the political side of things, but what does all this mean for the average Canadian?
That's the important question, right?
Like, why should people care about all this drama in Ottawa?
Well, this isn't just some abstract political game. This stuff has real-world consequences.
It affects people's lives.
Exactly. It impacts the economy, healthcare, education, everything.
So who's in charge really matters.
It matters a lot because they're the ones making the decisions that affect all of us.
So it's important for people to pay attention and to hold their elected officials accountable.
Absolutely. We can't just sit back and let things happen. We need to be engaged and informed.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the complexity of Canadian politics.
It's definitely more than just who's up and who's down in the polls.
There's so much going on behind the scenes, so many factors at play.
And it's constantly evolving.
Before we move on, I want to touch on those satirical suggestions for the Liberals that we talked about earlier.
Oh yeah, those are pretty funny.
But they also kind of highlighted the absurdity of the situation.
I think they were a way of pointing out just how desperate the Liberals are.
Like they're willing to try anything at this point.
Even blaming the World Economic Forum.
Or pretending New Brunswick doesn't exist.
It's like they've lost touch with reality.
So what does this all mean for the future of the Liberal Party?
It's tough to say. They're definitely facing an uphill battle.
They need to reconnect with voters and come up with a clear vision for the future.
And they need to do it fast.
Otherwise, they could be facing a historic defeat.
Time is running out for them.
It's going to be fascinating to see how this all plays out.
Buckle up, JT.
I'm already buckled up.
Good, because we're in for a wild ride.
You know, one thing that really struck me throughout this whole deep dive is how much uncertainty there is in Canadian politics right now.
Yeah, it really does feel like we're at a turning point.
Like anything could happen.
The old rules don't seem to apply anymore.
Yeah, it's not just about left versus right anymore.
Exactly. Voters are looking for something different.
They're tired of the same old rhetoric.
They want authenticity.
They want leaders who understand their struggles.
And who have a clear vision for the future.
This isn't about scoring political points anymore.
It's about finding solutions to real problems.
Like the economy.
Climate change.
These are the issues that people care about.
This deep dive has really emphasized the need for critical thinking.
Absolutely. We can't just blindly accept what we hear from politicians.
We need to do our own research.
Question our assumptions.
And be open to different perspectives.
There are no easy answers.
It's about recognizing the complexity of the issues.
And finding solutions that work for everyone.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has.
We've learned a lot.
And we've still got a lot to learn. Canadian politics is always changing.
But one thing's for sure.
It's never boring.
This deep dive has been a reminder that we all have a responsibility to be informed and engaged citizens.
Our democracy depends on it.
Whether it's voting
Volunteering.
or just having conversations about the issues that matter to us.
We all have a role to play.
And shaping the future of our country.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Canadian politics.
We hope you found it informative.
And maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Until next time, stay curious.
And stay engaged.